The role of the United Nations in resolving global conflicts. The United Nations is an international organization whose role is to maintain international peace and safety, protect natural human rights, dispatch humanitarian support, and promote sustainable growth to uphold international law in all 193 member countries. The Russo-Ukrainian War that started on February 24, 2022, is the latest international conflict for the status of Crimea and regions of Donbass, internationally recognized as parts of Ukraine. The full-scale invasion of Russia into Ukraine was aimed at reclaiming the two areas previously annexed from Russia. After World War II, the UN was formed to maintain global peace and security, preserve human rights, and forge better living standards by promoting friendly relations between countries. The United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, directed the UN Human Rights Council to initiate a commission of inquiry to investigate Russian aggression against Ukraine. The UN also oversees humanitarian assistance in intra-Afghan peace talks. The war in Afghanistan and Ukraine are current global events affecting the role and performance of the United Nations. The United Nations High Commission confirmed 816 civilian deaths, 59 of whom were children, and 1,333 injury casualties as of March 17, 2022. The UN deems this attack a violation of the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. Moreover, the war is a humanitarian crisis due to the scale of death, destruction, and relocation it has caused for the Ukrainians. The UNGA has voted for Russia to stop its offensive invasion and immediately withdraw its troops from Ukraine. The order was passed after the support of 141 nations in favor of the motion, 5 in opposition, and 35 absent voters. The rule allowed the UNGA to promote the rule of law and maintain territorial integrity in Ukraine. The Universal Declaration on Human Rights, UDHR, protects the fundamental human rights to be universally protected and pledges to limit the threat to peace by suppressing aggressive acts. The UDHR, therefore, promotes autonomy, fairness, respect, and equality. The UDHR, however, has a challenge of a lack of clear implementation guidelines, hence no concrete framework to achieve its projects and goals. The UDHR comprises 5 permanent members: China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom, and the United States, with absolute veto powers. Article 2 of the UN Charter grants veto powers to the member states, but has been hindering the United Nations Security Council (UNSC) mission. The member states are split into geopolitical blocs of either the Soviet Union or the US. Therefore, to maintain international peace, Russia's veto power means that the other member states can only impose sanctions through a coalition of the willing. The veto privileges have made Russia barricade the UNSC's ability to deplore its actions for sustainable peace. Therefore, the UN should include more members from African and Latin American countries in the UNSC to overcome the geopolitical influences on its performance. The Afghanistan War, or the Taliban War, is a 2-decade war in Afghanistan that has currently taken a major turn after Taliban soldiers have made rapid advances. The U.S. Army supported the Afghanistan military and police fight against the Al-Qaeda and Taliban forces. Since the invasion in late 2001 by the U.S. government, there have been over 3,500 deaths and nearly 6 million refugees. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, gives humanitarian response to such international conflicts to offer support to the affected civilians. The increased strength of the Taliban made the U.S. withdraw many of its troops from Ukraine. The UNSC peacekeeping mission did not intervene in Afghanistan but rather established the United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan, UNAMA, to lay the foundation for sustainable peace and growth in Afghanistan. The UNAMA is a special political mission mainly funded by the U.S. It remained after the U.S. troops were evacuated from Afghanistan to provide humanitarian support. It does not perform its duty to protect civilians from armed conflict in Afghanistan. Recently, the Taliban have proved cooperation by protecting civilians and undertaking other humanitarian acts. The UNAMA is rallying for global support to confront the challenges faced by Afghan forces, such as hunger and despair. The dominance of the Taliban in a nation with strong localized resistance does not, however, guarantee peace under the Taliban's rule. the Taliban demands the evacuation of all foreign forces from Afghanistan for peace and stability. Moreover, there are risks of attack from Al-Qaeda, Islamic State Khorasan, and other hostile groups. Therefore, the UN should negotiate peace between the Taliban and the Afghanistan army to join hands and form a leadership with majority support for sustainable peace and growth. Total peace in Afghanistan is a prerequisite for all the armed groups to be terminated, leaving only one governance unit. The UN should maintain a presence in Afghanistan and collaborate efforts between the Taliban and Afghanistan forces to create a stable political and socio-economic environment to form sustainable governance. The UN was formed after World War II to maintain global peace and security, offer humanitarian support, and assure human rights. The Ukraine invasion by Russia is a current global event that violates peace, territorial dignity, and sovereignty. Article 2 of the UN Charter recognizes 5 states, China, France, Russia, the US, and the UK, with absolute power. Article 2 is therefore preventing the UNSC from imposing its actions, such as sanctions, to enforce global peace and security. The power dynamics in the Afghanistan war immediately shifted after the Taliban victory. The UNSC should have allocated more military resources to reinstate the Afghanistan military into power. With the humanitarian demonstration of the Taliban, the UN should extend its stay in Afghanistan to avoid the risk of another war from the revolting groups and opposing the public by ensuring majority governance.